Nellie is a 15-2 cob born in 2013. She is a very sweet-natured mare with still a few baby behaviours. She was brought over from Ireland at the start of the academic year and is currently housed at Writtle University College. Nellie is constantly being ridden and handled by FE and HE students who have a variety of riding experiences. Equitation 2016 found that the skill level of the rider has a massive influence on the horse's balance and neck movement. For Nellie, this may not be the best thing for her as she is still rather green and doesn't have much education. The training program was designed to give her the basic skills that she needed in a riding school environment, offering her a variety of training sessions that would be different to the work she is doing with her current students. Nellie's saddle fit well for her current back dimensions. However, the development of her education and training will cause some major changes to her back dimensions over time, with the build-up of her top line as well as her improving her self-carriage. Nellie's bridle fit well. Her bit was changed from a simple snaffle as it was slightly too small to a slightly bigger one that sat better in her mouth. She ended up showing less stress behaviours and worked better in it, making her more responsive. Her noseband isn't a great fit for her, because even on the loosest hole it was a tad tight. This caused unnecessary pressure on the nasal bone, which is a serious welfare concern. It was suggested to the yard that Nellie should get a better noseband, but it did not change over the 6 weeks that I worked with her. Looking at Nellie's overall conformation, she is pretty standard for her breed. She is slightly croup high as indicated with the red line. This means that she naturally works downhill and will load most of her weight onto the forehand. The dipped back is an indicator that she isn't engaging her back end and lacks a top line. She isn't lifting up through her abdominal muscles. If you split her body into 3 sections using the green lines, she is supposed to be even in all 3 sections. However, as you can see, she has a bigger hind end and smaller front end, meaning she is out of proportion. She has a rather short and high set neck, which means that naturally she would be more upright, and when relaxed her head would not be as low as some other horses. A combination of a short neck and not engaging her hind end reduces the range of motion of the trunk, which plays a massive part in balancing the horse. Eckhart and White 2016 found that with a longer neck, when the gait and speed increases, the horse is able to extend the field of view to see further away, as well as better balance themselves. Nellie would struggle to do this. The orange line indicates that she is stood up at the front. She is slightly back at the knee, meaning she is camped under. Horses who have a camped under conformation are more prone to forelimb lameness and superficial digital flexor tendinitis. The yellow line shows that she is in line with her hind end. The purple line indicates that the hoof pastern angle is not identical like it should be, and the hoof angle is slightly more upright than it should be, as seen in the blue line. D'Souza et al. 2004 found that this reduces the stride length of the front leg and increases the risk of over-tracking and leaves them more prone to lameness. Her hind end looks slightly in at the back and her hoof stands close together. She appears to be slightly narrower at the bottom of the line, but only very slightly. There is a very slight muscular imbalance on her bum as well. Her quads are less built up on the left than on the right, meaning she is working more on her left than on her right. From the front, she stands carpus valgus, so she is straight down to her knee and then comes out standing more on her hoof medially. The addition of the feathers makes this point difficult to identify, but it can be seen. When walking away, she has a slight medial circumduction, as you can see here in the slow-mo. Her back hoof swings slightly inwards when walking. This is seen more in the back left, which could mean she's kicking out her other legs as she walks. When walking towards the camera, her front right hoof lands laterally first, then medially, and the medial circumduction on the left is more obvious. Nellie has very poor feet. She was originally shod on just her front feet, but after examining her back hoofs, it was noted that the bulb of her back feet falls on the floor when standing still. If the bulb is on the floor and constantly getting wet, this could either develop into thrush and cause infection where the hoof is soft, or cause an upward displacement of the bulb, which can be very painful and could cause them to go lame. Nellie didn't seem to show any behavioural indications of pain when a soft bulb was touched, but would drag her feet along the floor. This could be in order to limit the force being put through the hoof when she lands. Improper shoeing or the horse's general conformation is usually the main cause of this problem. It was brought to the attention of the yard, who requested that the shoes also be put on the back to try and lift the heel up slightly. Therapeutic shoeing, such as the uses of wedges, were not considered, as the use of wedges on horse with collapsed heel, which is what they think Nellie might have, has to be time limited or the condition would worsen. This is because wedges do not unload the heel. As you can see from this picture taken at the end of the training programme, this didn't make much difference and their feet are still pretty bad. Her low heels and soft feet were taken into consideration during the training programme. Before I could create a realistic and achievable training programme and set some SMART goals for her, I first wanted to assess her under saddle. It was very clear from the initial assessment that Nellie lacked any balance and straightness during walk and trot. She was very tense under saddle and continuously rode with her head high in the air. She lacked in every single area of the scales of training. She would often fall in on the right, and when asked to halt, her hind legs would swing out to the left so she wasn't standing square. Evaluation of her canter was not caught on camera, but was very unbalanced and disunited, finding herself running into it. Because of the environment that she is currently in, I thought it best if the main focus of her training was to develop her balance and start getting her more relaxed when being ridden. When long reining and lunging, Nellie would often be constantly pulling on your hands to guide her and would not walk forward in a straight line on her own. The handler was constantly having to pull her from left to right in order to get her to walk from one end of the school to another. Nellie was assessed by one of her third-year vet physio students at the university, who said that she was very tight and tense in her neck and back, and so would benefit from doing stretches 3 times a week, as well as working long and low. An evaluation of her stable was later done, where her hay net was found to be put up high. This forces her neck and her head to be constantly stiff and doesn't allow her to relax down. It was suggested to the yard that she either be fed on the floor or to be able to lower the hay net. This would allow her to naturally lower her head to the floor and try to relax more. A high head and neck position causes the flexion and extension movement, lateral bending of the lumbar back, and axle rotation to be slightly reduced. This is found to reduce the stride length and significantly cause tension and pain.
As Nellie struggled to balance herself with the rider on, I decided to use the Comfort Tech Scan on a mechanical horse at the university to assess my seat pressure and position during walk, trot and canter. It was found that I tend to put slightly more pressure on the back left of the saddle, which might be why she is shifting to the right to compensate this added pressure. Without improving Nellie's balance on her own, the asymmetrical pressure on the rider could cause her to have an uneven build of muscle on one side, and Nellie could end up compensating on other areas of her body, which could cause her to become lame. Gunst et al. 2019. Careful application of aids and being more aware of the rider influence of the horse and awareness of the behaviour and movement is very important in this sort of situation.
Whilst improving Nellie's own balance was important, it was also important to improve my own balance in order to reduce the pressure put on the saddle with an increased core stability. While sitting evenly in the saddle was important in creating an even pressure and allowing Nellie to be more balanced, it was unrealistic for Nellie to always have a symmetrical rider which she is being ridden in a riding school environment. Being aware of my own posture on the saddle was important to understanding how her movement was altered. Back symmetry of both horse and rider can change in the first 30 minutes of riding, so it was important to start sessions off with a gentle warm-up to relax and loosen the lumbar spine. It was important to get her working properly in the warm-up, as she has been found to have great influence on the horse's back. The main goals that I believe would benefit Nellie well and are realistic for her are: Number 1, improve her straightness when off the track. This would allow her to not rely on the handler or the rider to guide her forward and be more independent. Number 2, improve her balance during walk and trot. This would mean getting her to pick her feet up and improve her proprioception. Number 3, improve her bend and suppleness. This would mean getting her to work long and low, relaxing down in order to achieve a nice position and bend. And number 4, develop her balance to achieve a smooth transition into canter. Nellie is currently having to try to canter in riding lessons but find this very difficult, so allowing her and developing her canter would be beneficial. The plan with Nellie was to develop her basic groundwork on Monday morning, Wednesday after. The plan with Nellie was to develop her basic groundwork on Monday morning, and then to repeat the exercises on the Wednesday under saddle, adapting them where appropriate. This gave her 2 good sessions a week, as well as her basic work with the FEs on the other days. The first couple of sessions we began long reining Nellie through a variety of pole exercises. Nellie tended to get bored easily and predict what she wanted her to do next, causing her to become lazy and not lift up her feet over the poles. In the end, we had about 5 different exercises set up in the school for us to take her through. Some of these included normal trotting poles, some cavalettis, weaving in and out of cones, fans, and a triangle for her to walk over. The diagram on the screen shows the layout of the school and was adapted from a few YouTube videos and a physiotherapist. By giving her lots of different things to do, this meant she had to focus more on what she was doing, and she ended up picking her feet up and becoming more responsive to the handler. During these sessions, her head would be high in the air, causing her to trip over the poles as she could not see them. When her head was up in the air, it would be out of her field of vision and so difficult to see. She was still very reliant on the handler, making her go straight, and was very hard to get any impulsion from her. It was decided that until she could walk in a straight line without falling onto handler's hand and having to encourage her to lower her head, long reining was taken out of Nellie's training program. The groundwork sessions then mainly focused on lunging, getting her to work on her bending, and getting her to relax and work long and low using a pursuer. Early training of the horse is mainly focused on lunging, as it allows the horse to find their own balance. McKechnie-Guire et al. 2018 found that during walk and trot under saddle, the rider could add nearly 3 times more pressure than without on the lunge. Using the pursuer during lunging sessions allowed Nellie to work long and low, as well as to get her start establishing her own balance without the added pressure of the rider. Poles were also put on the ground for her to pick up her feet. The use of poles allows basic gymnastic activities to be introduced that don't involve suspension phases, like jumping does, and reduces the landing force on the legs. Poles are beneficial core exercises that strengthen extrinsic fall-in musculature and increase stability. These sessions were really beneficial for Nellie, as she was working long and low, as well as slowly lowering her head when being led, which she never did before. During the ridden sessions, a variety of pole exercises were used, as well as the addition of the Harbridge, in order to lower her head down. The first couple of sessions, the Harbridge wasn't attached, and was to see whether she would lower her head on her own. But as you can see, she still rode with her head in the air. The Harbridge was attached very loosely to begin with, and was slowly shortened to get her to lower and relax her head more. Even when the Harbridge was loose, she was lowering her head and wasn't leaning into the training aid. This allowed her to see the poles when coming up, and she started to pick up her feet. Lots of transitions were done at the start of each training session to get her to listen to the rider, as she could get her distracted when riding outside. Clayton et al. 2011 said that shortening the Harbridge by more than 10 centimetres, more than a neutral rein contact would be, causes more tension to be put into the Harbridge and puts a strain on the horse's neck by making it too tight. Light gymnastic activities like pole work and cavalettes have been found to increase stride length and distance travelled by the horse. Getting Nellie to pick up her feet and engage her core means she will develop her top line and improve her balance. By raising trotting poles by 20 centimetres or 40 centimetres, it increases the swing phase in trot and requires a greater flexion of the joint in order for Nellie to clear the pole. The first couple of training sessions, Nellie really struggled to pick up her feet and not trip over the poles. However, towards the end, Nellie was picking up her feet and starting to engage her back end. Nellie was likely to lean into the pressure exerted by the training aid and would start to work in better outline. She was starting to use her neck muscles and top line to suspend her head and neck when being ridden. Ideally, the use of the training aid would have been stopped and she would have started to lower her head position naturally. However, when watching her being ridden by other students, it was clear that she wasn't allowed to relax her head down and stretch her neck. So Nellie had learned through operant conditioning and positive punishment. If she lowered her head, the rider would put pressure on the reins to bring her head down and jab her in the mouth with the bit. This learned behaviour meant that slowly teaching her to lower her head was being reversed when the other students rode her. By placing the poles off the main track and down the centre line, this allowed Nellie to concentrate on going in a straight line and not want to fall into the track. Nellie began to be less reliant on the handler and started to listen to the seat aids when applied. A free schooling session was added to the training programme to see if she could balance herself more in preparation to develop her canter, and to see if she would lower her head without the pressure of the rider. By chasing Nellie around the school using the pressure of the handler's body, positive punishment, this meant Nellie could go over the poles, set out, and focus on her own foot placement. Nellie did really well at this, and even gave some very smooth canter transitions. She picked her feet up nicely and began to lower her head when going over them. After 9 weeks of working with Nellie, only 2 of the aims were achieved, number 1 and number 2. Number 3 would have been achievable had other riders not influenced the training programme, meaning Nellie would have been able to work long and low and feel more relaxed. Unfortunately, number 4 was not achieved, as concentrating on developing her balance in walk and trot was more important. I didn't feel that she was ready to support herself in canter. If more time were available, then this goal would have been achieved. Nellie would benefit from a few weeks of being ridden by the same rider, working on low and long posture. Without interference from other handlers and riders would benefit Nellie, where she could relax and work properly over her top line and engage her hind.